What up, players? Warboss Devlan Mud. Welcome to my How to Paint a Dark Eldar Incubi painting tutorial vid. I just want to put a little disclaimer that about halfway through the video I realized an easier way of me showing you how to do the process would be, instead of just kind of describing it, each of the steps, I could consolidate my time more by having each of these steps done step by step and showing you with the paint alongside how it looks when you paint something, shade it, and highlight it, rather than just me telling you, okay, now you're gonna paint this, and then cutting to the next frame and it's already done. So I figured that out halfway through the process of making this video, and I didn't want to go all the way back to the beginning, and stripping the paint or like buying a whole new box. So just forgive me for that, but it's going to help all my future painting tutorial vids, and I think that's great. You know, we improve and we get better all the time. So for this, I'm going to be using the Dark Eldar Incubi that comes in Citadel Fine Cast. They're lighter, they're easier to handle, I feel. They're a little bit, sometimes they can be harder to glue into place because they're a little bit more, they're bendable, whereas in the metal ones, they don't get as bent or warped in the shipping, I feel. So there's one guy's blade who was really bent, and even up to the point where his arms were bent, and I had to put the whole thing into some hot water and slowly bend it back into place. But except for that, and the fact that one of the guy's arms were either warped or miscast, so they had to replace it, and then they gave me the wrong set of arms, so it completely didn't fit, and I had to just make do with what I could. And what I did was I made this guy out of the process, and I decided to just use him in case I'm going to use a Clavex with a Demiclave, or if I want to use him as Drazar, the Master of Blades. This is the standard to which I'm going to be showing you how to paint your Dark Eldar Incubi. A lot of the steps can be skipped over if you don't want to get up to this standard, but I wanted to give you in detail the steps that I took, and then you can choose yourself, you know, which steps you want to follow, which you want to throw out, and then create your own look for your Dark Eldar Incubi. Okay, so join me, won't you, as we learn how to paint a Dark Eldar Incubi.
What up, players? Subscribe!
What up, players? Warboss Devlan Mud. Welcome to my tutorial video on how to paint a Dark Eldar Incubi for the Warhammer 40,000 game system. These guys are Citadel Fine Cast, which means that they're the new resin models, and or I should say these guys are, these four that I'm going to be painting up with you all. They're made completely out of the new Citadel resin and glued in their various poses. The only one that isn't is this fifth guy who I painted first to use as a test model, because his arm was mispackaged. They gave me the wrong arm, so I decided not to use the weapon because I would have had to cut and saw and glue and green stuff, a whole bunch of different stuff together. So instead I decided to look for two suitable replacement arms to represent the Demiclaves that the special character Drazar, the Master of Blades, or the Clavex can use. So I came up with these different bits to represent that. I also switched his head because I felt that if I'm going to use this as a special character, Drazar, the Master of Blades, then I wanted a suitably epic helmet when placed next to a regular guy. So to see the horns are bigger, and it just looks overall a little bit more meaner and substantial than these other guys whose horns are not as big. Yeah, so the last thing was I gave him these 2 special back trophy rack things that you can get off of the, I think, Cabalite Warriors and Witches Sprue. They're really cool. This one I noticed has the whatever the Beastmaster race is skull, and this one's got a human skull. So I was looking at the skull and I was like, that's weird. And then I was looking at the Beastmaster model and I said, oh, okay, that's where that belongs. And oh yeah, the base is still drying. But in this video, I'm gonna take you through all the steps that I went through to paint up this guy, and as you can see, he's pretty accurate to what the GW standard is for their studio army. The only thing I'm not going to be doing is I'm not going to be painting these horns in this white with the black shading color. I think it offsets the helmet, since the helmet is already going to be white-ish. So I don't agree with it, so I'm going to be, that's the only thing that I'm going to change. Everything else I'm going to keep pretty standard. The horns I'm going to leave dark black, highlighted up with gray, rather than this creamy bone, dark dirty bone color that these guys have. But like I said, everything else is going to be pretty much the same, and so if you want to achieve that effect, then follow my tutorial and change whatever steps you want to make it easier, or if you don't have the paints or want to try something else, please feel free. This is just what I found works to make a really quick and easy paint job for these Incubi figures. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do, of course, is to build them and pose them. And you know, one of my favorite aspects of modeling is, or of the hobby, is the posing, finding suitably epic stances for each guy, so that you know, okay, when I play him, this is how he's going to be facing, this is how I want this guy to be looking off to the right. So there's a lot of range in how you want to do that. So yeah, go to town. And then when you're done, let's get to the first step. It's going to be to base coat all of the armor plates with Dark Angel's Green. So any of the armor plates, not the bodysuit underneath, which is going to remain black, but even the shin guards down here. Anything that is an armor plate or looks hard, like a carapace, or you know, just like a part of the armored suit itself, and not the undersuit. So we're gonna do Dark Angel's Green over all of that, and we'll check in back with you when that's done. Alright, welcome back. As you can see, my Incubi are base coated. All of their armor is coated in Dark Angel's Green. And you see I even hit the gauntlets and the backs of their helmets. So everything except for the front part, because the front part you're going to be coloring bone to get this bone color, or not bone, but a gray. But the backs of the helmet are colored, and your model obviously doesn't look like this right now because we're going to darken it. So now we're going to darken the armor by giving it a very healthy wash of Badab black, making sure definitely that it goes into all the recesses and that it doesn't pool on the flat surfaces. So we want to give it a nice wash of Badab black, which I am just about all out of, so I'm going to have to get another pot. Okay, we'll see you when that's done. Okay, we just applied our wash, so the armor is looking a lot darker now. And we need to darken it down one more time with the second wash a little bit later, but we're going to let that one dry first. What we're going to do in the meantime is we're going to get started on the purple cloth. And the purple cloth you'll find under the waist, there, and on their left arms, there. So on my completed model here, you'll see that it's either in the front or the back. It's whatever clothy bits are between the legs and between the armor, and on the left arm. So we have the first color that we're going to use is either the Citadel Foundation Hormagaunt Purple, or if you don't have that, then what works just as well is Liche Purple, but you're going to need to use a couple more coats of that and thin them down just because it doesn't cover as well as the foundation color range does. So you're going to get all of the cloth bits while the wash dries on the armor, and we'll see when that's done. Okay, now that we've got our purple started, we're not finished with it. We're gonna be highlighting it up with Warlock Purple, but the armor plates have now dried. The Badab black wash is dried on the armor, which means we can get to highlighting them. And what we're gonna use for this is P3 Paint's Trollblood Base. And let's take it back to my finished guys here. As you can see, I really only highlighted the very tips and the edge of the armor. So you don't want to get too crazy with it. Just really highlight just the edges of the armor plates, and you should be good. With the Incubi, I'm going a little bit darker, so it's not going to get as light as my Archon was. But this is what you kind of want to go for. Just find all the edges, all the sharp edges on each of the plates and on the back pieces as well. And you want to use a very thin detail brush to highlight them. Oh, and on the back of the helmet, shoulder plates, and all the huge segmented plates that the Incubi have on their armor. Okay, so we'll see you when that's done. Okay, so this is what your guys should look like at this point. The Trollblood Base gives a really ghostly color to the armor. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to wash the model again with Badab Black. And what that's going to do is it's going to tone down the Trollblood Base and tie it into the armor, and it's also going to take down the Dark Angel Green to an even darker, super dark black shade. And it's going to tie everything together. Okay, so one more wash of Badab Black, and we'll see when that's done. Okay, so we can see how the wash has toned down the Trollblood Base to give it a very ghostly edge highlighting to the armor. Now what we're going to do, we're going to use Space Wolves Gray right here to hit only where the light would hit. So at the very edges, at the points where the edges are really sharp and fine. And another thing, you want to leave the backs of these back blades without color, because I just realized when I looked at these that their back blades are silver. I guess they're actually blades. So that's something that I just caught. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the back parts, the parts that look like the actual razor blade part of this back piece. We're going to leave it blank for now, and then we'll color it in with Boltgun Metal in a little while. So the Space Wolves Gray, like I said, you only want to hit the tips where the light would hit, so this is what your model should look like when you're done. You notice how I thinned down the Space Wolves Gray a lot, and I only hit very sharp edges where the light would naturally hit the model. And it gives you the illusion that the armor is naturally just very dark, but that when in motion it catches the light. The light catches on the edge of the armor plates. So that's what you want. Okay? So we'll see you when the rest of that step is finished. And as you can see, our armor plates are now done. The highlighting is now done on all the armor. And it looks pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish the purple scarves and cloth. So this time we're going to highlight with Warlock Purple. If you just thin that down just a little bit and cover the cloth, what you'll notice is that Warlock Purple is pretty thin, so it's going to spread and you'll be able to still see the Liche Purple underneath just a little bit, which is kind of what you want. And you want that darker contrast of the purple underneath, so you don't have to worry about highlighting in lines or anything. Just thin down the Warlock Purple a little bit and spread it down on the model, and it should naturally fill into where it needs to go. Okay, so you're going to be painting, again, that's the arm, scarves, and the cloth around the waist. Alright, so after one layer of Warlock Purple, your guy should look something like this. The cloth should be a little bit splotchy and discolored, and the Liche Purple should be actually more of a highlight than the Warlock Purple, which is sank down into the fold. So you're going to need to do another layer, and this time, after you're done with that, once you go through 1, 2, 3, all 4 of your guys, when you get back to the first one, you should be dry enough so that you can do a little bit of a mix of Warlock Purple and bleached bone, so that you get a little bit of a highlight on the raised edges of the folds. Okay, so you add just a little bit of bleached bone so that you can get some of these raised edges, so that it'll look something like this. Well, it won't look exactly like this because we're going to tone it down with a little bit of a wash in just a bit, but you want it to look a little bit more bright, and you want it to pop a little bit more when we get there. But as you see, if we didn't have the Liche Purple underneath, then having this over black would have just been too dark. So the Liche Purple creates a good blended middle color, so that the Warlock Purple will build up off of that. Okay, so take your Warlock Purple, go back over him, or all 4 of these guys, then mix in a little bit of a bleached bone and go back over that again, and we'll see you when that's done. Okay, now that we've highlighted up, we're gonna tone the colors together with a little bit of Leviathan Purple. You don't want it straight from the bottle, never want a wash straight from the bottle. You want to thin it out by putting it out on your palette and spreading it out, and maybe putting a little bit of water in it just so that it's not as thick. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to tie together the Warlock Purple and the mix we just did with a little bit of bleached bone, and it's also going to get some of the shading into the recesses, which is what we want. Okay, little bit of a Leviathan Purple, and I'll see you when that's done. Alright, so now we're going to get onto the metal bits, and what I mean by that are the blades and any spiky protrusions out of the armor. So you're going to be using Boltgun Metal, and when you're done, your model should look like this. The blade of their giant swords, the shoulder spikes, the blades on the back pieces, and the blades on the spikes popping out of their leg armor. Here's the other side of the back spiky pieces, and any studs you find in their armor. Also, you're going to want to color in the spikes coming out of the gauntlets on the arms. And that should do it. So Boltgun Metal for all the silver metallic parts as a base. Alright, see you when that's done. Alright, now we're going to get into the gold, which you can do in a couple of different ways. The easiest way I found would be to base coat it in base coat all the gold bits with Calthan brown, which is a dark brown, and will make the gold a lot less bright and shiny when you finally have it done. So you can either base coat all the gold bits, like the sword, the piece on the chest, and these trophies on the back with Calthan brown, and then shining gold right after, or you can mix Calthan brown and shining gold to get this mixture that's dark brown and has a little bit of that shine on it, and then just build up after with another layer of shining gold. But whichever way you go, your model should end up looking like this. Okay, as you can see, I painted the medallions on the back, the trophies that look like gold and amulets, and the sword, and this little plate on the chest. So again, that's Calthan brown, which is a foundation paint, and shining gold. Alright, so at this point your incubi should look like that. The gold and the silver all done. So now we're going to get working on his skull mask, the white mask that you see on all the pictures. So for that you're going to need Astronomicon gray. And when you're painting this, you only want to get to the front half of the helmet and not the back. So down to the front where it would look like it's forming a skull by the vents on the side of the mask, and up to the ears. Okay? And then when that's done, you want to give it a wash. And while you're at it, you also want to wash the metal. So the sword, both sides of the sword, the metal blade part on the back, the golden trinkets, and the arm razors, along with, like I said, the helmet and the this little chest piece, of course. So any metallic bits that are big enough, you don't really need to do the spikes on the shoulder pads or on the legs, but the sword definitely, and like I said, any other large metal bits. Then you want to highlight just the face back up first, the mask, with Space Wolves Gray and a little bit of Astronomicon. So you're going to have something like that, leaving the dark Badab black in the shadows, like right under the horns and in the vents. And I don't know if you can tell, but this head is a little bit warped. This is the one that came with my the miscast that they gave me in a plastic bag with the extra pair of arms that didn't fit. So it was all warped, and I couldn't really clean it too well, so I'm just trying to do as best as I can. But yeah, so there you go. That's what the mask is going to look like. So I'm going to let you go off and do that, and I will see you back for the next steps, which is going to be touching up a little bit of the metals before we go on to the trophy racks. Okay, so our guy should look like this now. He's got his helmet nice and shaded. His weapons and armor look suitably dark, which we'll bring up in just a second. But first, we're going to work on his gems, all the gems pieces and the wires on his suit. You're going to use Goblin Green. So we're going to get the writing, the rune work on the blade, and also on his back pieces, any of the gems hanging there, as well as this piece on his chest plate and the 2 wires in the upper part of his suit. Alright, so Goblin Green, and then you're going to wash it with Thraka Green. And when it's washed, it should look a little bit darker, give it some shading and give it some depth. And then you're going to highlight back up with Scorpion Green and then just a touch of Skull White, especially on the lettering. If you can see how it kind of looks like it's radiating magical energy. And then also on the gems. Okay, so that's that step. Next, we're going to get on to the horns. Alright, now we're going to get onto the horns of the helmet and to these little cords for the medallions on the back pieces. So you're going to use Astronomicon Gray to paint up the horns. You want to make sure it's thinned down but not so much that you can't see that it doesn't cover the horns. You want it to go into all the grooves without being thick and clumpy, but you don't want it to be so thin that that it only goes into the recesses and doesn't cover the upper parts of the horns. Okay, and then when that's done, you're going to wash the horns first with Badab Black. All the way from the base to the top. And then you're going to, once that's dry, you got to make sure it's completely dry. You're going to wash it with Devlan Mud from halfway up the horn down to the base. The resulting optical illusion is that the horns are completely shaded, but it looks like it's darker towards the base than at the top. Okay, so the most important thing is waiting for each wash to dry. And once those are completely dry, you're going to highlight up with Space Wolves Gray. First, along the ridges, by doing a horizontal. You're going to have to paint it yourself. I know it's going to be tempting to try to dry brush it, but then it's going to come out looking really powdery. So you want to do horizontal paint strokes. Just follow where the ridges of the horns naturally are, and then you're going to find those lines along each horn. Have a couple of lines that you're going to do really thin with just a little bit of Space Wolves Gray on your paintbrush, and you're going to do an edge highlighting really carefully. Now this step you don't have to do. It'll look completely fine if you just do the wash and just maybe do a little bit, but if you want it to completely make the horns pop like the box art, then that's kind of what I found was the best, most accurate way of doing it. The last thing you're going to make sure is that you have a little bit of Space Wolves Gray, and then you feather it really lightly at the tip of the horn, so the horn's tips look the lightest and the brightest. Okay, and once you've done with all of that, we are going to continue on to highlighting the metallics. So with this horns painted up, this is how he should look now. And now we're going to add Shining Gold and Boltgun Metal back onto the sword, leaving the shadows in the deepest recesses and highlighting up anywhere where the light is hitting the model. We're also going to be retouching up the blades on the arms and the trinkets on the back piece along with the blades. And then we're going to touch up with Mithril Silver. You're going to add that to the edges of the sword. Here you can see it a little bit better. As well as the pommel hilt. There. And any other edges that you think might need it. The Mithril Silver just creates a fine edge highlighting that is going to define the shape of the sword a little bit easier, as you can see. When you take a look at the box art examples, they've done it here as well. Just a little bit of an edge highlight. There, the Mithril Silver on the top, over here by the power core, and down here by the pommel. It's a little shine of silver, a little bit fine edge highlighting of silver where the pommel meets the grip. Okay, so once you've finished with that, next we're going to get on to coloring the pommel hilt, and that's both the one here down by the right hands and these two grips for the left hand. Okay, see you when that's done. Alright, our metallics are done now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the handles. This bottom handle you're going to base it in Hormagaunt Purple. And then the two left hand handles there, and there, you're going to base an Astronomicon Gray. And this is what it will look like. Astronomicon Gray for the 2 upper handles, and for the lower handle, Hormagaunt Purple. Then you're going to highlight up with Warlock Purple on the bottom, and Space Wolves Gray on the top. So it gets a little bit lighter. And then you tone both of them down with Assurman Blue on the top. So it gives it that dark blue haunting look. And Leviathan Purple on the bottom to tie together the handle and fix any mistakes. Okay, so once you're finished with that, we are really heading into the home stretch now. And the last things we're going to be doing are the eyes. So we'll see you when the handles are done. Okay everybody, sorry I made a little bit of a mistake. The handle for the right hand is not actually purple, but dark flesh. So go ahead and you could just paint it right over the purple. That's what I did, the Warlock Purple, and it seems to be pretty good. So now we're going to get into the eyes. And to paint the eyes, you're going to need to thin down a little bit of Scorpion Green and hit just the pupils. So as you can see, you can kind of see the pupils in the mask. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the pupils so that you have the green eyes showing. And then you're going to thin down your paint and you're going to feather the underside of where the pupils in the mask are, so that it will create a glowy effect, which is what I did for these other 3 models, as you can see. So all that is just thinning down the Scorpion Green really thin on a palette, maybe like 3 parts water to 1 part Scorpion Green, 2 to 3, and then spread it around, and then just take the end and lightly just feather the underside where the eyes would be glowing. So let's take a look at our example on the box art, and we can see that that is pretty accurate. Okay, so now we are just about done with our guy. So the last thing you're gonna do is just base him however you want. And when you're done with that, you have a completed set of Dark Eldar Incubi. So I'm gonna finish this guy's eyes, I'm gonna base him up, and then we'll do the wrap up for this video. See you then. And there you have it, players. A full squad of Dark Eldar Incubi, painted up to standard of the GW Studio Army, ready for some killing. Stick 'em in a Venom with your Archon, take out 1 guy, and you've got 4 deadly Incubi with your Archon, with Phantasm Grenade Launcher, of course, and Agonizer for added pain and pleasure. And you have an awesome unit that does great things on the field, looks great, and you've just learned how to paint them up, courtesy of Warboss Tay. So, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, if you've got this far, we're more than half an hour in, so subscribe, like, comment please. Is there anything you'd like to see me do next for a tutorial? I've got some unboxings coming up, some more tutorials in the works, but if there's something specific you'd like to see done, please let me know. Ooh, look at that shine. Look at that shine from the lamp. Oh, that's great. That's great. So I'm really proud of this unit. I'm really amazed that I got this tutorial done, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. So let's take one last look at the box art. Not the art, but the actual Studio Army. And let's compare it to what we did together. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And I hope your Incubi kill many things. Happy wargaming!